The pop of the champagne cork cracked through the living room like a gunshot, sharp and final. I froze in the doorway, my keys dangling from one hand, the other clutching a grocery bag of her favorite pistachio ice cream, her late-night craving she'd texted me about just hours ago. There she was, my wife of 7 years, Elise, standing in the glow of our chandelier, her laughter bubbling like the fizz in her glass. She wasn't alone. His arm, some stranger's arm, slid around her waist, casual, intimate, as if it belonged there. The divorce papers I'd refused to sign sat on the coffee table, a pen resting on top like a taunting afterthought. Cheers to freedom. Elise giggled, clinking her glass against his. Her voice, usually soft and measured, carried a reckless edge tonight, like she was auditioning for a life I didn't recognize. The man, tall, broad-shouldered, with a jawline sharper than the betrayal slicing through me, grinned and sipped. I stood there, unseen, my pulse hammering in my ears, the plastic bag handles cutting into my palm. I should have stormed in, demanded answers, but my feet were cemented to the floor. Was this real? Elise, my Elise, who cried during rom-coms and left sticky notes on my briefcase with hearts and hurry home scrawled in her loopy handwriting. The woman who, just last week, had curled into me on the couch, whispering about trying for a baby again after the miscarriage that nearly broke us. Doubt gnawed at my gut, whispering that I'd misread this, that there was an explanation. But the way her fingers brushed his sleeve, the way her eyes sparkled with something I hadn't seen in months, maybe years, told a different story. I slipped back into the hallway, the grocery bag abandoned by the door, and pressed myself against the wall. My breath came in shallow bursts, each one tasting of panic and rage. The living room's warm light spilled out, mocking the cold knot in my chest. I strained to hear their voices over the blood roaring in my ears. "You're sure he's gone for the night?" the man asked, his tone low, conspiratorial. Elise's laugh was a knife. "Evan. He's probably at the office, drowning in spreadsheets. He doesn't even notice me anymore." That was a lie. I noticed everything, her new perfume, the way she'd started wearing her hair down instead of in her usual bun, the late-night text she'd dismiss as work. I'd rationalized it all, chalked it up to her needing space after the grief we'd shared. But now, each memory twisted into a warning I'd ignored. The late nights at her book club. The sudden interest in yoga classes she never invited me to. The way she'd flinch when I touched her, like my hands were sandpaper. I crept closer, peering through the gap in the doorframe. Elise was leaning against the couch, her silk blouse catching the light, her lips stained with champagne. The man, his name, I'd later learn, was Marcus, sat too close, his knee brushing hers. "To new beginnings," he said, raising his glass again. "New beginnings," she echoed, her voice softer now, almost wistful. Was that guilt in her eyes? Or was I projecting, desperate to believe she still cared? My mind raced, replaying our last fight, about money, about time, about how we'd stopped talking without yelling. I'd thought we were just stuck, not broken. I could have left then, walked away, let her have her freedom. But something darker took root, a need to know how far this went, how deep the betrayal ran. I slipped my phone from my pocket, opened the camera, and recorded. The lens captured what my heart refused to accept. Her hand on his chest, his lips grazing her ear, the divorce papers glowing like a prop in their twisted celebration. The next hour was a blur. I hid in the guest room, the one we'd painted blue for a baby that never came. The walls seemed to pulse with my heartbeat as I listened to their laughter fade, replaced by murmurs, then silence. When the front door clicked shut, I waited, counting to 100, before emerging. Elise was alone now, humming as she rinsed the champagne flutes in the kitchen. The divorce papers were gone. "Evan," she called, spotting me in the doorway. Her smile faltered, then recovered, too bright, too brittle. "You're home early. I thought you were working late." I swallowed the bile rising in my throat. "Got done early. Brought your ice cream." My voice was steady, a miracle. Her eyes flicked to the grocery bag by the door, and for a split second, I saw it, fear, or maybe guilt, flickering across her face. "You're so sweet," she said, crossing the room to kiss my cheek. Her lips were cold, and I wondered if they'd touched his. That night, I couldn't sleep. Her breathing beside me felt like a lie, each exhale a reminder of her secret. I played the video on my phone, the sound off, the images burning into my brain. I wanted to shake her awake, scream, demand why. But I didn't. Instead, I started digging. Over the next week, I became a ghost in my own life. I checked her phone while she showered, found texts from Em filled with heart emojis and plans to meet. I followed her to yoga, watched her slip into a coffee shop where Marcus waited, his hand on her back as they disappeared inside. Each discovery was a shard of glass, cutting deeper, but I couldn't stop. I needed the truth, every ugly piece of it. I confronted her on a rainy Tuesday, the divorce papers in my hand. I'd found them in her desk, signed by her, waiting for me to agree. "What's this, Elise?" I asked, my voice shaking. The kitchen smelled of the coffee she'd brewed, the same brand we'd bought on our honeymoon in Costa Rica. She froze, her mug halfway to her lips. "Evan, Don't lie," I cut in, tossing my phone onto the table. The video played, her laughter filling the room like poison. Her face crumpled, tears welling, but I felt no pity, only a hollow ache where love used to be. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this," she whispered. "Marcus, he listens, Evan. He sees me. You stopped." Her words were a punch, not because they were true, but because she believed them. I'd been drowning in my own grief, working late to keep us afloat, thinking we were rebuilding together. "So you signed these?" I held up the papers. "You celebrated?" She nodded, tears streaming. I thought it was over for us. I wanted to hate her, to walk away clean. But love doesn't vanish, it festers. "You celebrated too early," I said, my voice cold. "I didn't sign." Her eyes widened, confusion mixing with dread. I pulled another paper from my pocket, a private investigator's report, detailing Marcus's history. Married, 2 kids, a trail of affairs. "Your new beginning is a lie," I said, sliding it across the table. "He's not who you think." She stared at the report, her hands trembling. I waited for her to beg, to explain, but she just sat there, silent, as the rain battered the windows. I walked out, leaving the papers behind, unsigned. In the car, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just drove, the wipers slicing through the downpour, my heart a tangle of love, rage, and something like relief. She'd betrayed me, but I'd seen the truth before it was too late. The champagne had popped, but the celebration was over.